Hey there, guys. Welcome back. Here we are at Chapter 8, and we're talking about thinking, intelligence, and language. There we go. So again, if you guys have any questions, let me know, and otherwise we'll just get started. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask them later. All right, here we go, kiddos. Um, when we think about, um, here we go, I'm sorry. When we think about what our brain is doing, okay, I don't know why it's so acting ugly. Okay, our brains act a whole lot like a computer. Things go in, things go out. Our brain, this is your computer, okay, this is your brain. So stimuli come in, responses go out. Stimuli happens, and then responses happen, okay? So just like a computer, input, output, stimulus in, response goes out. Exactly the same way computers work. So your brain is just a biological computer. Okay. So just like computer programs, when computer programs are designed, they're designed to help to do something, either solve a problem or help you to go from point A to point B to point C to complete something. So your brain does the same thing. So your brain is there basically to help your brain navigates you through day to day. So, but when you're trying to solve a specific problem, how does your brain help you to solve a problem, or how does your brain frame out that problem so that you can figure out what to do? So obviously the first thing is you find and frame the problem. So you find it, you figure out what it is, right? And you address it. From there, develop good problem solving strategies. Here you've got the doctor looking at the little girl. She's got a hurt knee. So obviously the problem, okay, is the hurt knee. So what are some problem solving strategies? Okay, so what's wrong with the knee? Look at it, find out what's wrong with it. What are some different things you can do to try to fix it? Evaluate those solutions. So, you know, if her knee is just scraped, is it bleeding? Put a band-aid on it. Is it just scraped a little bit, just the skin is irritated? You put boo-boo medicine on it, maybe you leave it alone. If it's broken, then you have to go to the doctor or the hospital and have to figure it out from there. So depending on what the actual problem is will depend greatly on, obviously, how it's fixed. So from there, you're going to rethink, redefine the problems and the solutions over time. So some problems are immediate, where here it is, you fix it, and you go on with it. Others take a little bit of time, and sometimes it's not always quick and easy. Sometimes it's a long and drawn out process. Some obstacles that we have in fixing problems. I love this. So using so fixation is when we use a prior strategy when a new one might be better. So the thing is here, see, if you've got a string, here, how do you fix it? Well, so what he did was he's got this string, and then he whatever, this is like a weight, and then he tied it on the other end, and then he started to swing it so he could get both, because what he wants is both strings at once. So he can't get both strings at once, right? So he's trying to figure out how to get both strings at once. When you're putting a shelf together, most of the time all we need is a screwdriver or a hammer. if we need the screwdriver, a hammer is not going to work. If we need the hammer, a screwdriver is not going to work. So understand that one strategy isn't going to work for everything. But sometimes, you know, we get stuck on using one thing for one solution. This is why I think they've you know, I forget what the word is. You know, but when they bring old shows back and renew them, one of my most favorite ones from back in the 80s was MacGyver. He could fix anything with a roll of duct tape and his Swiss Army knife, right? So it's using the things that you have and understanding that they don't have just one purpose. You know, if you need a screwdriver and you don't have one, what else can you use? If it's just a flathead, then you've got a coin in your pocket, you can use that. You know, different solutions, understanding that you can fix something with more than just one instrument. All right, so there's multiple ways to serve multiple problems. Decision making. How do we, every single day, we make thousands of decisions, starting with when the alarm goes off, or maybe even before the alarm goes off. If you wake up before your alarm goes off, what do? You roll back over, you go ahead and get up. When your alarm goes off, what do? Do you turn it off? Do you get up? Do you turn it off? Do you roll over? Before you go to bed, you know, do you take care of the cats tonight, or do you wait and take care of the cats in the morning? You know, so decision making is evaluating alternatives and making choices among them. Do we do it now? Do we do it later? Do we take this? Do we take that? Right? But the whole point is to maximize the outcome. So what can I, you know, by doing something now versus doing something later, what is going to have the maximum benefit for me or for whoever it is I'm trying to help make the decision for? But when we make decisions, okay, based on biases. Okay, so we either, you know, we make decisions because we're trying to avoid a loss instead of acquiring a gain, a loss aversion, or confirmation bias, searching for anything that only supports my idea. Hindsight bias, reporting falsely what we predicted as an outcome. I love this, haha, quote, love this, during elections, when people beforehand, that confirmation bias, searching for information that supports our ideas based on the candidate that we choose. However, if the election turns out to favor the opponent that we were not voting for, then we go, oh well, I knew this because, well, if you look back at history says. So that's that hindsight bias. Report falsely what we predicted as an outcome. So we go back and, well, yeah, I was wrong, but let me tell you why I was wrong, and it's not my fault I was wrong. Availability heuristic is to predict a probability based on the ease of recall. The easier it is to, I'm going to say this because it's just the easiest thing to say. Ignore information about general principles. You know, I can walk outside and say, okay, it's cloudy, it looks like it's going to rain, but you know what? I'm not going to take an umbrella because it's really not going to rain. It's not going to rain because I don't have an umbrella, right? It's cloudy. If Jim Cantori says it's going to rain, my money is on it's probably going to rain. Mother Nature doesn't give a crap about whether or not I decide to take my umbrella or not. Representativeness heuristic is to make judgment based on stereotypes. Okay, all black cats are bad. No, not really. I have a black cat. She's a mess. Love her, but she doesn't bring me bad luck. All right, blind spot bias, noticing biases in others, but not in oneself. This is a big one for most of us. I find myself that when somebody does something that gets on my nerves, it's probably because I do it. And it's okay that I do it, but I don't want them to do it. It's gross when they do it, or it's not cool when they do it. But I'm going to do it. All right. So again, a bias is just our way of thinking about things because that's the way we think about So thinking about things, how do you think about things? When you talking about critical thinking skills, thinking reflectively and productively and evaluating the evidence. It's looking at what it is, thinking about it, and then making a decision based on what we look at and what we're thinking about and what we're seeing. We have to be mindful. We have to be alert. We have to be present. This is a good example here in a courtroom. This is probably the jury, I'm guessing. It's one thing to sit and watch, CSI or watch forensic files or unsolved mysteries or whatever, um, you know, and go, oh, well, if I were on the jury, then this, and this, and this, and this. But when we're there as a juror, I would imagine, I've never had the opportunity, um, but I would imagine that we would be a lot more alert, we would be a lot more present, and we would be a lot more mindful in what we're looking at, because realistically they have the fate of an individual in their hands. um, and then of course you have to be receptive to new ways of looking at something. You have to be open-minded. You can't have a closed-minded perspective. You have to understand that your way may not be the best way. Your way is certainly not the only way. You have to be open to what everybody else is thinking, because there's more than one way to do any one thing. Creative thinking. Okay, so divergent thinking versus convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is here trying to plan outwards. This is where we are, but how did we get here? Convergent thinking is we're out here, how do we get into the main goal? So do we go from the inside out or from the outside in, trying to recreate or create, or tied to understand how we got to where we got to. Those of you guys that are creative thinkers, not so much me. I rely on Pinterest too much. So creative thinkers, you guys are brainstorming. You guys are so good at trying to figure out more than one way, and you're writing everything down. You're talking to your friends. Flexible and playful thinking. Oh my gosh, especially moms right now with this quarantine. How do you get your kids to eat? Oh, funny. I mean, it's, you make boats out of vegetables. You make whatever. I mean, making spaghetti and meatballs, you've got, spaghetti for the face and meatballs for the eyes and the nose, and maybe you take, meatballs and slice it up for the mouth. I don't know. It's just the way, it's being able to, get your kids to do something, get your spouse to do something. That's why as parents, they go, oh, look, here comes the choo-choo train, right? So that's one way to get the kiddo to eat. Um, that inner motivation. Usually creative thinkers have that internal motivation, that inner motivation to get things done. Um, but creative thinkers also have to understand that there's risk, that anything that you aren't sure of, there's always a risk that it's not going to work. And creative thinkers are like, okay, doesn't work, we'll figure out something else. Objective evaluation is looking at it as not necessarily being specifically right or wrong, but come at it from, looking at, this is what I've done. What are the good parts? What are the bad parts? It's not right. It's not wrong. Can we use it? Yes. Can we use it? No. Right. So it's just kind of a squiggly box of ideas, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and we don't really want to throw it away because we may be able to use it somewhere else. So different theories of multiple intelligences. Here we go. Just some different ways. I mean, just because you're good in one thing doesn't mean you can't be good in something else. Are you verbal, spatial, interpersonal, naturalistic, musical, mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, or existentialist? These are just basic frames of mind. Am I a verbal person? Am I a spatial person? Interpersonal versus interpersonal meaning inside, intrapersonal meaning, both you and the outside. These are just different ways of we can use our intelligence in different areas, depending on whether or not we're left brain or right brain, how our brain works. Um, as far as language goes, language is spoken, written, or signed communication based on symbols. When we're riding down the road, we see a sign. We see the train or the diamond shaped signs, and if there's a squiggle with an arrow, we know that that's up ahead. There's a road that's very curvy. So language isn't just spoken with the word or written with words, but it's also using signs, sign language, or different symbols to kind of iterate what we're trying to say. Um, the ability to produce an endless number of meaningful sentences. We can talk, I can talk, a blue streak. So that infinite generativity, being able to produce endless number of meaning sentences to say anything that I want or say nothing. The greatest example I love of somebody talking, but you're not saying anything. You're saying words, but you're not really saying anything. Well, the other day, well, you know what? I was thinking, but maybe that's not, oh, come on, you know how it goes. Um, you know what I mean? It's wow. You see what I'm talking about? I said a whole lot of words, but I didn't make one meaningful sentence. I said a whole lot of stuff, but I didn't say anything important. So when we talk about language in and of itself, if you want to break down what the parts of a language are and what does it do, what does language do, okay, as far as the structure, and this goes well beyond what we're going to talk about or what you're going to talk about in your English comp classes. So first off, phonology, basic phonemes, sounds, is when they talk about phonetical learning via phonics, uh, hooked on phonics, right? So learning via sounds, breaking words down by sounds. Morphology, rules for word formation. How do you create words? How do you write words? If there's something new, how do you come up with a new word for a new item? It's in their rules, where it's the roots, are they roots Latin or the roots Greek, whatever the roots are, and the meaning of the word and how it is connected to what that thing is, and so how to come up with a new word. Rules combining words into phrases and sentences is your syntax. How do you say what you say with trying to, and making sure you mean what you say? um, Meaning of words and sentences, semantics. Um, our one of the things in our house that's it's an ongoing thing is somebody goes, "Oh well, mom's just mad." No, I'm not mad. Well, then what are you? Well, I'm upset. Oh, semantics. Mad versus upset. Okay, it's not a positive emotion. It's not a positive vibe. So semantics. You know, the slight differentiation in the meaning of different words along the same kind of linear kind of line of thinking. And then pragmatics, how do we use our language, making sure that we are communicating what we mean and meaning what we're communicating. So in the human development, how does language development in the human child? Between 0 and 6 months, they start to coo, babble. So cooing, just kind of making sounds, not anything specific. Babbling, trying to put sounds together, trying to mimic. Um, you know, Babbling, mom, they know, because when we see an infant, oh, come to mommy, oh, come to daddy, so kiddos are trying to kind of mimic that, and so they start making sounds, and then it goes to single words, and then from single words we go into two words, um, like instead of going from mama, say mama eat, mama I'm hungry, right? So we can't say mama I'm hungry. A 2-year-old doesn't know how to say mama I'm hungry, so toddler may come up to and say mama eat, um if my Steffi hungry, or G hungry, right? So it doesn't, something along the lines of trying to put two words together so that they can convey somewhat of a meaning. And then from 3 years on, they can really start to talk in um, full sentences, although the sentences are going to be rather short, not very complex sentences, but sentences nonetheless. Ooh, so there we go. Super duper easy, short chapter on language and intelligence. So again, comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave them in the discussion portion of Canvas and I'll get to them. Again, you guys stay safe, stay well. If you need me for anything, you know how to get me. I'm trying to answer my emails as quickly as they come in. All right. In the meantime, you guys stay safe, stay well, and I'll talk at you later. Bye.